Howdy, folks, and welcome back to Viva La Cats. I am your host, Justin Hiles, accompanied by my great friend, Steve Maurer, and we have taken some time off, but we are back under the mics in the hot air. It's spring. It's like summer here in Nashville. I'm sure it's even worse in Phoenix for Steve, but we are back, and we have some news, lots of news, and it all revolves around the magical transfer portal. We'll get there in a hot second. Before we get to that, just like to shout out our sponsors, Charlie Hustle, providing amazing gear for us all season long, as well as our network, the 1012 Network, where you can find plenty of podcasts to cover everything Big 12. Steve, the Bearcats are hot in the portal right now. They are cooking with propane. What's going on?
Dame my gasolina. That's what's happening right now, baby. We are cooking in that portal. We're bringing them in. Maybe we're getting them some Charlie Hustle gear. I mean, we got to get these boys in any way we can. But I think that I can only be positive about what we brought in so far. And there's still one more spot left. But Justin, should we go ahead and just get into the two transfers that have decided to willingly join the Bearcats for the next year?
You say that as if people can join like held against their will.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I'm just preparing myself for eventually, like, there's going to be like trades in college basketball, and we're going to like send two portal spots in the future for one guy right now or something like that.
Probably not far off that system. Yes. Okay. Steve, I get one, you get the other. You say the first one.
What are you going to do when the Hickman runs wild on you, brother? It's Hickmania time in Cincinnati, boy.
Dude, that t-shirt will sell. I'm just going to say that much.
Yes, I agree.
Connor Hickman, huge ad for the Bearcats as of, I believe it was Monday. And so funnily enough, I tweeted that out on Monday morning. I was like, you know what? It just feels like a good day. It's been quiet. It feels like a good day to grab somebody from the portal. And like a few hours later, bang, it happens. It's just, it's match made in heaven. It's what it is. Hickman, huge ad from Bradley. I like that we're using the recruiting from the NIT and we're taking the best players from each roster that we play. So fine by me. Better than the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar take. I'll take Hickman. And a very solid three-point shooter. And I think it's going to be a great ad alongside CJ should he stay. Word's still out on that as of Thursday night, April the 18th. But we're waiting. I think he's the only one left that we're waiting on. But
yeah, I really like Hickman's game when he played against us. And I think that gives you the ability to have a true shooting guard. I mean, Seamoss was kind of playing that shooting guard role. I know it's positionless basketball and we're in 2024, yada, yada, yada. But I think this frees up Seamoss to really get into that, that small forward, power forward, like just get him on the court at least.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have to do those shooting guard abilities because we saw him without the ball in his hand getting freed up to make shots. He just needed a couple screens. He didn't even need to take a dribble, and he was just putting them up at the end of the year.
China Clay, baby.
Yeah. So if I just think you've got to open up like your outside. And Justin, how many times have I asked us, like, we've been doing this show for parts of 7 years now, right? How many times have I asked us to just get a couple 3-point shooters and we'll be all good? And what do we have now? We've got 3-point shooters, Justin. Like, we finally caught up to 2017 and 2024.
Yeah, like on paper, like everything's there. Like there's been a few people who have like thrown this out there, but like this really is like the most well-rounded, like talented, individually talented roster that we've had since like the Gary Clark, Cumberland, Evans, like Washington, like all those guys on the roster at the same time, that like 17, 18 year. This is where all of that talent is on the same court at the same time. I think that's huge. I'll say for the Hickman ad too. And I'm going to ask you this real quick because we do have to move fast. We're on a timeline here, but I'm going to ask you this. Do you think that moving Seamoss to like the true 4 position, do you think that ends up being better or worse? Because my only concern would be Seamoss is 6'8". So a 6'8" shooting guard has a pretty sizable reach advantage, especially when it comes to, anybody who's protecting on the perimeter. But you also have faster guards at the 2 position who are a little bit more agile than you will with your traditional 4s. So I'm curious if that's going to, if CMOS is going to get, he's still going to have the green light, but I'm wondering if he's going to find some of those contested shots to be a little more difficult if he's matched up against a 4 versus that more traditional 2. And I guess it depends on the defense that he's playing too. But
yeah, it's possible for sure. I would feel pretty good about their ability to still run him off screens and get him those matchups that he likes, and
right,
to have that ability to be just a touch faster than any 4 he's been matched up with. Now,
true.
it's current day college basketball, and they
It
make
doesn't
big
matter.
guys they make big guys fast now. Like
Right.
that's not good English, but whatever. Like everybody is
Good guys be
fast
fast.
now. Yeah.
Big guys be fast.
So I do think that maybe just having that additional threat will give more room to CMOS. The only thing that does like bring up a little bit of a red flag to me is that, you look at Hickman, he didn't really shoot the ball all that well when he played against higher competition from the 3-point line. And while I'm not going to really hold it too much against him, I don't, he had 64 games against his conference, and then he had like 29 games against the rest of like in non-conference. So I'm not really going to hold it against him much. I'm kind of hoping that he's able to really ratchet up his play once he gets in, but I'm not really concerned about like the shooting ability. Maybe like it'll be harder to get more contested shots, but we saw just from the defensive side of the ball, Justin, you can put a hand in a guy's face and he'll still drain a shot. Like how
That's
many
true.
times this year did we do that? And the other team was still just going to drain a shot on us. So I do think that this frees up some space for CMOS and for CJ / Hickman. I think it's good to have different options. And I also wonder too is, you've got Jizzle as your kind of your mid-range specialist there, but I do wonder if we're going to try and see more of that actions that are ending up in either 3-point shots or shots right around the rim, because we watched, BYU play that way. We watched Indiana State play that way. Alabama, not exactly, but Alabama was going to put up a ton of threes. So I kind of like that ability to just focus on your strengths and build on your strengths. And it felt like a couple times if we had just shot the ball just a touch better on the road, we could have probably won some more games this year. So
Yeah. Well, and I'll say this too as our last point on, the 3-point shooting thing is like you have a very well-rounded, 3-point lineup now, which is great too, because in theory, you can throw out a Jizzle or a Day, or depending on how it goes, you could throw out both of them. You could throw out, CJ, you can throw out Hickman. You can also put CMOS on the court at the same time. Like that group as a whole is really solid. And like the fact that you have 5 guys that you can trust to take a 3. I mean, I think Jizzle definitely still needs to work on his 3. I think his mid range and his like overall court presence is insane, but he's not like a pure 3 shooter. Like that's not his game. Like he is a mid range shooter, and there's a reason that he's as good as he is inside the arc. But when you have all those guys who are capable of doing so, and then you tack on Dan as well, who can shoot some threes too, like I feel really confident that this team is going to be well rounded. All that to say, there is another addition. Steve, who is that?
Mr. Page, Arrington Page, coming from USC.
Taking the roundabout.
Yes.
Taking the long way around, but still making it back to the Bearcats.
That's why you don't burn bridges in relationships, baby.
Yes.
You never know. You could always just come back together at some point,
That is exactly why.
Not for me. I am happily engaged. I'm not saying that, but and it could still be used in like a work sense, and obviously this sense as well. How it's important to keep those relationships. And I'm not saying that UC is tampering at all, but this is why you don't burn bridges when a kid doesn't commit to you the first time, because he could easily just do what Arrington Page did, which is Justin grow 3 inches from high school to college and come to you not as a 6'8", 220-pound power forward / center, a 6'11" power forward / center. There is some concerns maybe a little bit with like his usage rate, but I'll just say this. I did not trust his coach at USC, who's now at SMU, which is funny to me. I I just think Andy Enfield is a good recruiter. I don't know how good of a basketball coach he is because look at the amount of talent he had on his roster last year, and he led them to a 15-18 record. I'm not saying that is, obviously people might respond with, well, Page was a part of that team. Why didn't he contribute? And I don't think that his former coach is the best at putting players in position to win games. I think Wes Miller has that ability to show that he can put a guy like an Arrington Page. We're gonna have to learn that from him, Arrington or Arrington. I'm gonna probably do the Cincinnati thing and say like Arrington, and like get the like the low A there. But Justin, I just want to see another big man really follow through, and I think the sky is the limit for him. He's kind of more of a developmental prospect, which is kind of what you get with 4 stars nowadays. Your 3 stars are your more cemented basketball players. Your 5 stars are just uber talented basketball players, and your 4 stars are kind of more just in that project range. And I do think that UC can improve his ability. I mean, just look at how Aziz improved over last year. I think there's at least a blueprint there for how Page can improve as the year goes on.
Well, and I think that's a big thing. Like we talked about this, and we had everybody throw out our ratings, including our own, of how we feel about Wes's ability to develop talent. That is something that I think a lot of people feel strongly about. Like talent development for Wes clearly has shown that it's worked, and he's not just bringing these guys here, using them up for the skill that they have, and then they go on somewhere else. Like he's really, you've seen the ability that he has to pull the team together and to maximize their usage in the best way possible. I mean, you saw it down the stretch with the playing time that Jizzle was getting. You saw it down the stretch with Day when he was using him on more of the defensive sets and trying to like maximize each player's skill set in order to make the team be put in the best position to win. So for a guy like Page, who is still a little bit of a raw athlete, clearly has the size, has the ability, has a skill set from high school, but we're going to have to see how he fits into the team. I feel really confident about Wes being able to plug him into the team and hit go. And I don't know exactly how everything's going to shake out. I do know that, we've got the roster for the most part filled out. But this is one of those things that I think looking forward, we're just going to have to see how all of this plays out. But I feel really good about where we're at right now because the addition of Page, who again is another 4-star talent, who's a guy that we were originally going after, another top 100 player. Those skill sets don't just disappear. Like they don't just disappear. If anything, they get better. And of course, he didn't have like a stellar year at USC. Of course, like you said, his usage rate was down really low, and I'd be really excited to see how he can, try to find a role within this Bearcats team. And I don't think that he's going to be too far down the depth chart to where he won't see at least a good, valuable set of minutes. I think the biggest competition is going to be between, him and Betsy and McKinley and Seamoss. They're all kind of in that 4 range. And I'm curious to see exactly who comes out, because obviously Seamoss is going to be your starter if he's at the 4. And so then you have Betsy and McKinley. McKinley can, swap out for Aziz. I mean, we're gonna say all this, and then we're not even gonna get to the point of like looking at the entire roster as a whole. Like, but it's if we just made this simple, what's your 1? You got Jizzle and you got Day. What's your 2? You're gonna have Hickman and you're gonna have Frederick. What's your 3? You're gonna have Dan and you're gonna have Rayvon. What's your 4? 4, you're gonna have Betsy, you're gonna have Seamoss, you're gonna have Page, I guess, because now at the 5, because now he's 6'11".
Probably Page at the 5, yeah.
Yeah, Page at the 5 now. I keep thinking because he at 6'8", you're a 4, but at 6'11", you're a 5. So it's screwing me up. I'm still thinking back where he was. So a lot of these guys are going to mix in, but between that with Aziz, and then you're also going to have, this kind of nice mix of all these guys down low who, have the size and presence. I feel good about it. I feel really good. And I think there's a lot of potential there to have a really strong lineup, but this is a very talent heavy lineup, which is good.
One last point. I looked at his college basketball reference page, and he had a 107.5 defensive rating, which is 100 as an average, so slightly above average on the defensive end, 92.5 on the offensive rating, slightly below average. So, but to me, Justin, like that's just saying that he can improve on his defense, but it's already starting in a good place.
Yeah.
And this is a defense first program. Wes has definitely prided this team and this program on defense, and I think if his perimeter play can, or not his perimeter, his play around the rim can be as good as Aziz's. Like,
Yeah.
I feel confident that you can pull Aziz out more often next year and just say, all right, take a breather, because that was a big point in some of our best wins this year is getting Aziz proper playing time and also proper rest.
Yeah, no, that's a huge thing, and I think we saw it down the stretch. I think that was one of the things that we talked about in the Indiana State game, where you take Aziz out and immediately like you feel all the pressure and shit starts to go awry. So you have a very key player there that you just need to keep in as much as you can, but that's not always a luxury that you get to have. But yeah, so overall, lots of great additions there from the portal. There is still one scholarship spot left that is yet to be filled, but we will see what happens with that. And we'll see where we end up going from there. I mean, it's a important one, but I feel like if you're going to do anything, you're probably going to add a veteran 5. I think you're going to add another strong 5 that's probably going to be making some competition between McKinley, Page, and Aziz. That's really your goal. And if anything, this is a huge thing I think a lot of people miss about the transfer portal, that it's about putting competition in your team. Like if you're bringing in somebody who can beat out a guy who is your guy, like that's good because that drives your guy to be better. And that makes, you have talent in your room that if something goes awry with injuries or illness, which we had plenty of this year with other issues, this will be huge to have that guy backing him up. So excited to see what happens there. Portal out. That was all the ends. That's where everything is. Let's talk about how we got some free spaces here, how that ended up happening. Let's see what happened in order here. Was Jamil the first one?
I believe Jamil was the first one, and then he committed like almost immediately to South Florida,
which
so
makes sense.
Yeah, hometown kid. I really like the coach there. And hey, he loves teams that have either been in or are still in the American Athletic. Like he's a power sixer for life. So good for him. But really though, I don't really see how it could have worked for next year. I'm just glad he's getting an opportunity. So
yeah. And I mean, there's not really a ton else that has to be said for him.
He had a very nice message like to UC fans, which I really enjoyed. Like, I mean, he could have been more spiteful and just said, respect my decision, but he was really nice. I really respected that.
Yeah. And that's quite honestly, with some of the other shit that was coming out from some other people talking wise, I think he took it like a champ. And I think he did it the right way, and that's nice to hear. And I'm glad that he's found a good spot for him. And USF is a great team, and I'm sure he'll be a impact player very quickly there, which is always what you're looking for out of the transfer portal if you're a player. Next up, Vic, man, Vic in the transfer portal. I think we all saw it coming. It kind of felt a similar vibe, but I think the conversation was there for a bit longer of a time. And for a while, it was Vic is going overseas. That's kind of the information that we had. And then out of left field, ends up at Clemson, which is that's a huge landing spot for a guy like Vic, because I don't know exactly what his role is going to be. I don't know if John Newman maybe slid a number in for Vic, slid in a good word over at Clemson. Not that he doesn't deserve that, because Vic is a very good player, but I wonder if maybe there was some kind of connection there too, because you never know how it works. But obviously John coming from Clemson definitely has some connects over there still. But with that aside, big landing spot for Vic. I'm happy for him. It's unfortunate kind of what happened towards the back half of the season, and things didn't really work out. I would have loved to see him stay in a Bearcats uniform and kind of get back into his rhythm that he had in the early season and the early goings. But ultimately, it's a great landing spot for him. It works out for, it works out for the Bearcats because we get to add more talent, and it works out for him because he gets to end up in a spot where he can be happier and he can hopefully have, some still good minutes out of that. And they're an Elite Eight team this year? Is that,
Yeah.
if I remember correctly? So yeah,
Yep.
I mean, I think that's a good positive for him, and I'm happy for him.
Yeah, Justin, we've talked about before. Players when they leave UC, they don't usually transfer up.
Yeah,
We have found it hard to like find some instances where players have actually transferred up, and
that's a good point.
just from a basketball sense, like, hey, they made the Elite Eight of the NCAA. We made the Elite Eight of a different tournament. So I will say that he probably, went up maybe a little bit. I don't know what his role is. Maybe his role will be a little bit diminished. But um, the only thing that sucked about him was that he said he wanted to come back and do like a Netflix documentary at Fifth
Yeah.
Third Arena. But he said, "I hope the fans don't boo me then," and that did kind of make me sad. I was like, he had some really positive did some really positive things for us over his time here, and came during the middle of COVID from Russia. Like, just
Yeah.
I definitely felt, just felt for him that he obviously knew he was getting booed, and just, I don't know, it just stinks when college players get booed like that.
Yeah, and it sucks too when it's not just like a college player getting booed like that, but it's somebody who's getting booed like that by your own fans. Like, honestly, that shit sucks, and I really hope that we don't continue that. I understand people are frustrated given the circumstances because things were not really going right at the time, and there was a lot going on. Like you said, I mean, for him, clearly, like the transfer from overseas, especially given the circumstances, we're not going to get into all the weeds, but the circumstances of Russia, the circumstances of the world during COVID and everything 2020 and up, like he's far from home, and he's been in some tough situations, and clearly things have just not always been going right. So, like I said, great to see that he ended up in a good spot for him. Happy for him, and I hope he succeeds at Clemson. Last one, Sage Tolentino. I saw a stat that was interesting. I think somebody shared it in the Bearcat therapy group chat. 20 minutes played over the course of his 3 years with the Bearcats, and it was very interesting.
2 years,
2 years, sorry, yeah. I was like, yeah, that
but
didn't sound right.
still,
Yeah,
you're right. Yeah, only
right.
2 years. It's
So,
crazy.
unfortunately, like I think it was one of those things that felt really weird because he never really found a spot or a role within the team. And he was definitely one of the really like hyped up recruits too, because he was, local with coming from Hamilton, and he had a lot of talent. He had the size, everything was there, and the makings were there, but unfortunately just never found a role within the team. And so he decided to enter the transfer portal and still has not found a landing spot yet. But, it'd be sad to see him go. He seemed like a good, like energy guy, and he's definitely good on the bench for the team. And, unfortunately, guys part, but that is the way of the world in the transfer portal. So best of luck to Sage wherever you end up. And, I don't know how everybody feels about it. There's some people, I think it's football is a little bit different. Basketball, I always root for all our players when they go somewhere else. I want to see them succeed because it is still, it might not be your team anymore, but it is a player that came from your team, and you want to see that player succeed. So, and we've had plenty of those guys across the D1 continent of sports over the past few years that we've got to monitor. So I guess we'll get to add 3 more to the list now. Those are all our portal outs. Are you got any closing thought on the men's Bearcats basketball portal?
Yeah, I'm just kind of interested to see how everything changes, and how these guys will change. But I don't know. I have to feel like you like what you see for
Yeah.
these guys. So um, I'm definitely really high on what this team can be. So I'm looking
Yeah,
forward.
and
I'm looking forward to it, man. Like, there's sky's the limit for these guys.
yeah, and I just echo that too in saying that I think there is a lot of potential for this team. I think it felt that way last year. The difference with this season is that now we have a grip on the difficulty level of the Big 12 firsthand. And it's not just what everybody else tells you. You get that firsthand experience. And Wes, I think, clearly did a good job of trying to stitch some things together. The team did get better throughout the year. I think they started off really hot went through some lulls, but he did find a way to actually, kind of improve on the team. And some guys sprung up, stars were made, guys found their spot. And so I think this year will be no different. I think some of those positional places, there's some of those positional battles and some of those star players are a little bit more figured out this time around than they were last year. But I will be really interested, like you said, to see how everything shakes out. And I'd be curious to see what this starting lineup looks like at the end of the season. You never know what could happen. Like you said, like illnesses, injuries, it happens to everybody. It happens to every team. But I'm really curious to see who ends up in what spot and who the star player of this team is, because I really think it could be a lot of these guys past just your normal starting five even. So excited for that. That's all the portal ins, portal outs for basketball. There's a lot of portal talk. It's portal week, baby. It just keeps coming. We've got a lot to catch up on. Football. Scott Satterfield. There is some things happening in the portal. Steve, tell me what happened.
Yeah, so just wanted to go over real quick some of the guys we did unfortunately lose in the portal. There's been some change in the scheme this year, so a lot of defensive guys ended up heading out. The one that I was interested in is Derek Shepard. He was a commit from Alter a couple of years ago, and then ended up leaving just this past week in the portal. So, always interested when kind of those local guys leave. Raekwon Adkins as well did decide to leave. And then Dorian Jones was another one who left too. I think these things are kind of because of of the new defensive coordinator, Tyson Veit, his system. Maybe he kind of just let them know that, hey, we're kind of probably not going to use you in this scheme. So if you'd like to go ahead and put your name, if you'd like to stay, that's great. But if not, we understand, and go definitely find a place to be. That's what I'm hoping, at least. Maybe it could be a lot worse than that. But the interviews I've heard from Tyson Veit, he seems like a nice guy. So the Bearcats now have 5 scholarship spots open on the football side. Expect them to go maybe after some more defensive depth, but most recently today I saw they were in the mix for a wide receiver from Colorado State, who I am not remembering their name right now, but yeah, it's just it's always interesting to see who comes and goes in this springtime this year, especially a guy who I inadvertently tweeted about and later deleted a tweet. If you know, you know. But I thought somebody who the staff might be interested in, like bringing back a good offensive threat, and I had completely forgotten about all the things that he ended up saying on his way out. So this is just a reminder to the fans: do some research before you look at who you might want back, because you don't want to make a mistake like me and get absolutely roasted in the comments.
Do we want to talk about that one?
I don't want to say the person's name, but let's talk about the coach real quick. Looks like Mr. Deion Sanders has aged about 5 years in a span of about
I think it's
18
a little bit more
months.
than 5.
Yeah,
Man.
yeah.
He doesn't got like wrinkles and stuff on his skin, but like his hair went from like, black to just straight up gray, like full silver beard.
Yeah.
Like I never would have expected that. He always keeps a clean shave, but even if a guy's got silver, you can see it. You can see it in his stubble. And that man went full gray. Maybe he's just been dyeing it. I don't know, but wow.
Hey, he's going full mountain man right now.
Yeah,
trying to assimilate to the Colorado culture.
Dude, he's got I gotta say, credit to him. He's adopted the look. He's got the cowboy hat on. He had the hoodie, and then he's got the suspender overalls. Like man's got the fit check, at least for his press conferences. If he doesn't have anything else, good players, bad players, winning record, terrible record, he's gonna make a show of it regardless.
Yeah, he's interesting. So I mean, I know we have our coach, but I do often wonder how much worse it may have been with another coach. Like maybe that's too harsh. Maybe we could have like gone 4-8 instead of 3-9 last year, but you never know. So there's still, but all that to say that portal season is a wild time.
Yes.
Hey, you got to be on Twitter. Like I got my screen time report. It was up the past couple weeks, so I've been locked in on transfer portal. There's also baseball going on, but a lot of transfer portal in there as well. So someone who, Justin, will never leave you out in the cold and asking who we're missing. Charlie Hustle. Charlie Hustle will take care of you all the time. They've got this lovely Cincinnati Bearcats shirt that I am wearing right now with the old-fashioned script nickname and more block lettering for the location. So I really enjoy this. And my guy Frank, Justin, I forgot to tell you about this, buddy. He texted me that he was cracking up that I was trying to push that I was trying to promote tags on t-shirts as part of our Charlie Hustle branding last time. So I'll just say that these are the most comfortable shirts that you will ever
quality threads.
Yes, with your team's name on them. So if you go to charliehustle.com right now, enter the promo code 101215 for 15% off your first purchase. Go ahead. They also stand. They've got some great things going on there at Charlie Hustle right now. So be a part of the show. Support us. Support the 1012 network. Get on over to charliehustle.com. Use that promo code 101215 and get kitted out in some gear.
Thank you for that, Steve. My camera's just gotten totally blurry during that whole thing, and it's become a whole mess. So Steve and I have officially switched spots. Give me 2 seconds. All right, there we go. At least we're on the right side. I don't know. I can't get it to focus. Maybe I can trick it. I can trick it into focusing. All right.
Ooh.
No, it still won't focus. Whatever.
Oh, there we go. It's back.
Oh, there we go. Perfect. All right. Thank you for that, Steve. Again, Charlie Hustle, great threads, 101215. Use the promo code. Get you some good stuff. Bearcats still hitting the portal hot, and it could not get any better than landing a 5-star. And who other than Miss Merriweather herself could land a 5-star recruit? Incredible for the Bearcats. This is probably one of the highest rated recruits that, like, I think just the Bearcats athletic department has ever had come into their doors. We've had very few 5-star recruits over the course of years in football, basketball combined, all of that. This is a huge commitment from the 2025 class. Alexander, I'm absolutely stoked for this. And I think it's going to be huge for women's basketball, hopefully to get some more noise and to get some more excitement around the program. They've been, making a little bit of headway, but it still needs to make some more progress. And for Katrina, this is a huge get.
Yeah, it's an amazing get. Justin, I have to think about it. I don't really think we've ever had a 5-star recruit, to be honest.
Lance is a 5-star.
Lance, yeah, okay, yeah, good call out. Yeah, thank you for reminding me. But yeah, still, just absolutely insane that we have just not really had much. Like, I'm kind of impressed with what Coach Merriweather's been able to do. Like, she got one highly touted recruit out of the Dallas area, and then getting Alexander, a 2-time state champion, local player, to come and play for the program. Guys, I know that our Barstool account, which I've been at odds with a lot recently, was talking about wrongly talking about watching Haley Cavender and Haley Van Lith at UC this year. But fans, get out there for your own team. Like, we've got some good players this year. Jillian Hayes is coming back. Like, there's some studs on that team this year. And I would love nothing more than to see women's basketball really just be able to embrace some of the surge that nationwide women's basketball is getting and have some of that energy this year. I would really love to see that. Like, I'd love to see what the crowd is like for that Iowa State game. Like, Audie Crooks went off in the NCAA tournament, and having her to play against UC would be a lot of fun to watch. K-State was really good this year in women's basketball. Kansas we had 8 teams make the tournament this year in Big 12 women's basketball. It's no slouch in either league. So I'm just glad that they really seem to have got this higher right on the recruiting side. And, Katrina even Coach Merriweather, pulled some great wins out of the hat last year. So I just have a feeling that this is just the start of what could be a great place, a great program on the rise.
Yeah, and I would just like to. I want to throw this out there too, because this is. I'm not going to take any credit away from Wes. I'm not going to take any credit away from Katrina. But I would just like to add, I feel like there's just a little bit, just a tiny bit of an effect of also having the Jordan brand and the swoosh. Like having these, I think these are things that the everyday person might not care about as much, but these players care about, and it matters to them because this is the culture that they have. This is what they grow up around with sneaker culture. It's huge in the basketball scene, and so to have Jordan be your main jersey sponsor for that and your shoes and everything, like it just really helps sell the whole idea beyond all of these other additional factors that makes the Cincinnati brand great. And I will say this too. This is, funnily enough, I'm going to make a quick comment on this and we got to keep going. But there was some random dude after we made a comment about Bearcats landing D that said, like, well, why not just go to Ohio State? It's like, first of all, screw you. Second of all, nobody in Cincinnati cares about Ohio State. Third of all, to a degree, this is a good win in recruiting because the guy in a way makes a point. Like Ohio State is a great landing spot too for women's basketball. Like it's not like, I mean, to his point, like it's not like Cincinnati is known for women's basketball, but this is a huge landing spot. And Purcell Marion is like, give or take local spot outside the stretch, whatever you want to say. She could go to OSU and still be in state, still be close to family. So the fact that she's made the decision to stay, to go to Cincinnati and to, stay around the area, I think is really huge. And it shows, like, again, with football, even in basketball, we've had some great talent in the Cincinnati area. And these guys have gone to plenty of other schools, succeeded and gone to the NFL, succeeded and gone to the NBA. Like we've seen these players succeed at other schools, even though they grew up in the Cincinnati area. So when you can win those recruiting battles from other teams in the state, that's huge. It's tough. We don't always do it in football with Ohio State, but we still have been landing a lot of good recruits. And so to see this happen for women's basketball, I think is great. And I'm just excited to see, how all that pans out. Of course, it's still going to be another year before she ends up on the roster, but there's going to be a lot of hype around that. And I hope that in the meantime, there's a little bit more headway and maybe we can get the women's basketball team back in the tournament and start making some noise there. Kind of, start to prime the machine before she gets there, get a little bit of a ball rolling, and then play off some of that success. I think that would be great. So we'll see how all that goes. This all comes off of the news of last week. Again, it's just, there's so many things happening. We're going to make this happen fast because Steve's got to get out of here in 5 minutes. I don't know how we package this in 5 minutes, but overall, insane. Absolutely insane job from Travis Kelce, Jason Kelce, Joe Burrow, the full 9 yard, every single guest, every single host, all of the staff, all of the fans that showed up. They made this New Heights show incredible as an experience for anybody who was there in that arena. Unfortunately for Steve and I, because we're out of town, it's not so easy to get back and go to things like this, but it was a great experience from everything that I've heard, from people that I know that went, from everything that I've read, everything that I saw. There was so much hype around it, and they did a fantastic job making some noise around the Cincinnati program, getting some good donation money for the NIL fund for Cincy Reigns, as well as just making some great content for the Bearcats and making some great content for New Heights, only making it better. Steve.
Two things. I really loved what they did, not just for themselves and bringing back everybody, bringing in some NFL players, bringing in some former UC players, but I also loved that they did this for NIL because, Justin, I learned today that Cincy Reigns is one of the top selling beers in the state. And an
Cincy
event.
Light.
Yes.
Did
I say what I say?
You said Cincy Reigns, but still, same difference.
Cincy Light.
Cincy Reigns is Cincy Light.
And hey, look at the benefits that we just had. Paige, Hickman, Alexander, all these players that we just brought in. And that's thanks to you, Cincinnati. You helped make this possible. So
Keep drinking.
keep
Keep
drinking
drinking.
responsibly.
You know,
I just love it though. Like, well, you're right. You're right. You're right. Yeah. You're right. You're right.
the more irresponsibly you drink, the better this team gets. And
That's
it's
right.
not because your vision's getting blurry or you stopped caring.
I mean,
It's getting better.
You start caring. You focus your energy on one thing, and that is helping the Bearcats win championships.
And
Focus,
now you can do that with beer. It's the
Yes,
best
exactly.
combination. It's the American dream.
But
I buy beer and my sports team benefits.
that's right. Exactly.
It doesn't get better than that.
They had a hell of a week, though. They booked out Woody's once. Joe Burrow walked into Woody's with them after the show. They had the vats of Skyline chili, which I don't really believe that Jason lost his ring. I think someone just said that's mine and walked with it. But I think they should come back and do it for as long as they want. They should definitely keep doing it. And next year, I think they'll fill up the football stadium. Like, I know they moved it inside because of the rain, but that bitch was full for the just the live podcast and the games.
Yeah.
And I think they get it outside next year. It's going to be electric.
I think it also just sells the point of how great an arena Fifth Third is for events like this. Like, they packed it out. Clearly, like, the environment was fantastic. They brought out the flame, throwers for the entrances. They had plenty of effects going on. Like, the
crowd
arena
pops
is
were
really
crazy, bro.
So what?
The crowd pops, like it was
Yeah.
like WWE in there, dude. It was insane.
Dude, well, I mean, honestly, like, I think that's not even a joke. Like, they should seriously consider putting WWE in like Fifth Third Arena. I know they try to do it with all the whatever. I don't even keep track of what
AEW,
fake
baby.
arenas become now. But yeah, I mean, hey,
They had AEW there. So yes, I agree.
yeah, it is a great venue for just about any kind of indoor event. But I'm glad too that it worked out in such a short span of time to get that fixed after the impending weather that was coming that Friday and Thursday. So overall, we have covered a lot. This has probably been our most loaded episode in a while, but we have one final closing thing for you, and that is the Bearcats Sports Wrap Up, baby. Steve, hit me.
Ready. Here we go. It's actually more of an update since we haven't been on in a while. So if you haven't been checking in, the lacrosse team, they are now 10-5, 2-2 to start conference play. 2 more games in the season against Florida at Nippert and Vandy on the road before the conference tournament. So definitely get out there for senior day against Florida. Baseball, they are now 21-17. They have a couple series coming up. This weekend, they've got Houston at home. Next weekend, UCF on the road. Weekend after that, West Virginia at home. Weekend after that, BYU on the road. And then they finish the season with Oklahoma at home. Got a couple of midweek sprinkled in there. They are in a good position to reach the conference tournament. They have to finish in either 10th or above to reach the conference tournament. They're right in the middle of the pack right now. So hopefully they can get a couple more wins and secure their place. Tennis, they ended their season, unfortunately, with a loss to Texas Tech in the Big 12 tournament. And as we speak, the women's golf team is playing in the Big 12 tournament, and the men's golf team will be headed there soon. So congratulations to all of our Bearcats. Keep rocking that red and black wherever you go. I'm really looking forward to seeing what the baseball team's done this year. They've been a pleasant surprise. A winning record for our baseball team, as you might know, Justin, is not something that happens very often. So I'm really just happy to see what Coach Bishel has done so quickly, and I hope they can continue to turn it around.
Yeah. Yeah. And like you said, all these sports, I think, are, just kind of trying to put some things together here and get back on the right train with the Big 12 and try to make some progress as we go forward. And it's nice to see that some of that is taking effects pretty quickly. So overall, it's been a hell of a past few weeks. I have been working my absolute cheeks off. I know Steve has been busy too. So it's been just fun to kind of keep track of the whole show as it goes on throughout the past few weeks. But glad we got to get on. And given everything that has happened over the past few weeks and how eventful it has been, and the fact that we have not had a pod, it might still be a hot minute before we have another one. But we're trying to stay on like every 2 week schedule throughout the summer because, of course, we all have lives. And if we did this every week, that'd be sad during the summer. We need to get out and enjoy ourselves because there's not a ton that happens and there isn't that much to talk about. But we will have some fun off-season topics and pods for you guys once the summer really kind of gets into full swing, once we get into the Junes and Julys. But still some more to come too, more transfer portal stuff to happen. We've got a lot of time left there, and we'll see how all this shakes out after a few of these other sports and some of the Olympic sports end towards the end of their season. So for myself, for Steve, thank you for joining us this week on Viva La Cats. It has been a pleasure having your ears to be tickled by our voices. As always, thank you to the 1012 Network for being our proud parents. We love you, Phil. Overall, we just want to say a good shout out to Charlie Hustle, and be sure to check out their gear if you're not already. Make sure to go to their website, www.charliehustle.com/collegiate/Bearcats. Find that gear, get you some, use that 101215 promo code for 15% off, and you'll be all set. That's all from us, folks. Have a fantastic rest of your April at this point. We'll talk to you again in May. But in the meantime, catch us on Twitter and all our other platforms. Steve, it's time. Viva
La Cats.
Yes, sir.